Hello children, it is me, LaGrouch, and this is the Wasp. The Wasp is a missile launcher. That is to say, it launches missiles. But these are not normal missiles. These are micro missiles, small projectiles for small problems. Problems too small for a normal missile. See, most missiles are anti-armor. These missiles are armor-piercing. At first, this might sound like the same thing. Generally, when you are looking for an anti-armor option, you're looking for something that can pierce armor. But if you're taking the Wasp because you think it might be the right option for substituting your recoilless rifle, you're in for a bad time. The Wasp is not anti-armor. It is anti-basically everything else, but it's not anti-armor. It is, however, especially anti-medium enemies. This thing is great at killing medium enemies specifically. Light enemies are completely ignored by the automated targeting systems, and while it can kill some of the smaller heavy enemies, it is never going to be the ideal option for them. Against very large enemies, this is more B than Wasp, in that you basically get one attack and then die. This weapon is anti-armor in the same way that the pointy part of nail clippers is for self-defense. You're not technically wrong in saying it, but most everyone can agree that it's not the best tool for the job. Using this to take out a Bile Titan is to sentence that bug to a death by 1,000 cuts. After 2 or 3 clips, it just starts to feel inhumane. Just call in the 500 kg, put the poor thing out of its misery already. Hasn't it suffered enough? The reason for this lackluster anti-armor performance all lies in those micro missiles we were talking about earlier. Though they have level 5 armor pen, high enough to get through most armor in the game, that only applies to the missile itself. The explosion has significantly lower pen. This means that only the impact of the missile does any damage. And that impact does not do much. Maybe it would do more if you were able to hit a weak spot with the rocket, but unfortunately, you would have to be aiming the rocket for that to be the case. And you don't aim these rockets. They're too small for that. It would be like trying to engrave the entirety of the Bible on a grain of sand. No, the machine aims for you, and the machine is drunk. It does not choose a path between A and B. It decides that that is simply not enough points and adds 24 more stops in there. Can't let any of the letters feel left out. This creates a flight path that I can only describe as woo! It also creates a new issue. A clear line of sight is not a clear line of flight. I swear to God, it seems like these missiles have just enough sentience to perfectly pick out the only bit of terrain between me and my enemy, then do 3 loop-de-loops and fly into it. This buck-wild flight path means that forested maps are kind of a non-starter for this weapon, unless you really hate trees. But other than that, the targeting system is good, right? Wrong. The targeting system is also limited by enemy size, only locking onto foes medium and above. This is a nice feature when you want to pick the most dangerous member of a group, but detrimental when the main danger is 80 pouncers, an enemy that you will find doubly hard to deal with given the fact that this weapon doesn't really do close range. It tries to do close range, but it doesn't do close range. The fact of the matter is, once enemies get close enough to you, you're not going to have enough time to lock onto them before they start killing you. This means that you're going to need a primary that can deal with enemies that get too close. Luckily, you have the Wasp to offset your range damage, so a shotgun should do nicely. And you're going to want to switch that shotgun frequently, because even if you get that bug targeted and that missile fired, that is not a guarantee that this will hit. You still must contend with the greatest counter this weapon faces, the enemy walking at you. If they are moving towards you when you fire at close range, then there's a good chance the rocket will try to come in at too high an angle and end up landing behind the enemy. This wouldn't be that big an issue if it weren't for the fact that most enemies in this game walk towards you, so odds are good that you're going to find yourself wasting ammo. But hey, at least you have plenty of ammo to waste. This brings us to ammo efficiency as a whole, and in regards to that, this weapon's pretty good. You get a total of 42 shots between the mag that comes in the gun and the reserve ammo that comes in the backpack. Yep, this is a backpack weapon, but you probably guessed that based on the backpack I've been wearing in all these clips. Like with most other multi-shot support weapons, this gun comes with an accessory that is fully optional unless you want to use the weapon. However, unlike some other support weapons, the Wasp actually makes up for the inconvenience of making you carry the extra ammo on your back by actually giving you a usable amount of ammo. And it even helps you keep track of how many mags you have left with these handy-dandy lights that blink out one by one as you use your mags. A useful feature given the fact that your average Helldiver can't count past C. Even with all that extra ammo, it is still gonna hurt a little bit every time you waste a shot. I wish that I could say that there was some secret, highly technical way of getting these missiles to follow a more predictable path, but there just isn't. With every shot, you are essentially spinning a slot machine. The only input you have is where you shoot from. And in this lies a great strength of the weapon, as it can be shot from just about anywhere. The targeting system on the Wasp has a range of about 300 meters. This is more than enough range for pretty much anything. As you have seen, this weapon is not meant for close range encounters. The solution? Don't get into close range encounters. Identify the horde while it's still at a distance and take it out swiftly. You can do this by spraying spraying over the mob as a whole, or you can use a more refined approach. You can use the artillery. Artillery mode is the secondary fire mode of the Wasp. Firing-wise, it works in much the same fashion as the normal firing mode. You lock onto a lock-ontoable enemy, you pull the trigger, and things die, or at the very least, something explodes. The difference is all in how it happens. Where the standard fire mode shoots individual micro-missiles from the canister, artillery mode just hucks out the whole fucking canister, which then rains down the micro-missiles in a giant shower over the locked-onto enemy. This takes the horde clear of the Wasp and puts it into one neat, cylindrical, airborne package. Unfortunately, it does use up a whole mag, as the mag itself is the projectile, so it may not be the best thing to use in every situation. Interestingly, you can still use this option even with a partially used mag, but be warned, the less micro-missiles in the canister, the weaker the shot is gonna be. Now that we all understand the basic mechanics of this gun, let's discuss the best way to actually play with this weapon. Answer: I wouldn't. Look, this is a decent weapon, but the fact of the matter is that in my third slot, I want something that's gonna deal with armored enemies, sometimes even heavily armored enemies. If my support weapon can't do that, then I at least expect it to be usable at close ranges. If it lacks both of those, then I at least expect it to be consistent. If it can't be consistent, then by God, I at least expect it to not take up a fucking backpack slot. Still, if you are for some reason so won over by the promise of long-distance medium enemy dispatching that you are willing to look past all of its shortcomings, then it is best to prepare yourself. First of all, you're gonna need something to deal with those heavy armored enemies that come up from time to time. Ideally, this will be done by something that doesn't necessitate a backpack, i.e. an EAT, or a commando. You could also just say, fuck it, and roll with a 500 kg and a laser, but that is a risky gambit. Of course, you know all about risk. You're taking the gambling support weapon after all. Your primary should be something that can deal with a lot of enemies at close range. Earlier I suggested a shotgun, but that is only one of many options. It could be anything, as long as it's one of the shotguns. Your strategy with this gun should be a simple one. Try and kill as many things as possible from as far away as possible. Proximity is the Wasp's biggest enemy. It is the key factor that you are going to find yourself playing around with this gun. Always keep your head on a swivel and your eye on the minimap. When the enemies start closing in, use the Wasp to thin out the horde and then switch to your primary for the cleanup. So that's the Wasp. It is a very unique weapon with a very unique use case that I will never use again. Though its selling point as a dedicated anti-medium enemy weapon may be tempting, especially when you're running a Predator strain mission, I cannot shake the feeling that I'd be better served by one of the many other options available to me. Unless there are gunships. Honest to God, this thing is so good at dealing with gunships, it almost makes up for its efficiencies everywhere else. All of those issues I discussed before just seem to evaporate when you're up against gunships. I'm still not taking it though. It freaks me out. I mean, you hold it at waist level and yet you can aim down sights with it? That is some kind of fucking dark magic. I just don't trust it. Also, I don't know if you guys have seen how I play this game, but situational awareness is not exactly my forte, and this gun requires vigilance. You need to be making note of where enemies are and not constantly be surprised by them. I mean, that's not gonna happen for me. Still, this weapon has the potential to be a lot of fun if you take it in the right situation. Give it a try in your next dive. Ooh, also one last thing, I didn't know where to shove this one. It can take out bug holes in one shot, but only if it hits it at the right angle, and as I've said before, you cannot aim this. This is an unaimable weapon, so it's a good way to waste rockets, I'd say. Bye.
Subscribe to me, go. 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 Subscribe to me.